Thank you so much. So yes, my name is Jina. Use my and I am from OnLogic. I specifically focus on leadership coaching, development, and training. And the great thing about working at OnLogic is that we have such wonderful recruiting team, because they go ahead and seek out leaders that will adapt to our culture and what we need as a company. And so they're already hiring like the leaders that we need. So that makes my job a little easier, right? I don't have to change who they are because they're already fantastic leaders. So I get to help them adapt to certain situations. And so this is a presentation about how our journey has been since we started with the Culture Factor group and what we've learned and how we have worked with our leaders and our teams to go ahead and adapt. Because we don't want to change who they are, right? We want to help them adapt to the situation, the team member, the customer, and let them find their own voice. So with that, who thinks my name is pronounced Couture? Not many of you. Who thinks my name is pronounced Couture? You're all correct. So my ancestors on my in-law side come from Normandy, France. And when they were over there, my last name from my in-law side was pronounced Couture. They came to Canada. It was still pronounced Couture. Guess what happened when they came to America? Couture. So in Vermont, which is where I'm from, little tiny Vermont, that's where they came into and they settled. And they came in with Couture. But because of the culture, a lot of people were pronouncing their name Couture. Now, they could have adapted to the situation, as frustrating as it could be, and educate people on how to pronounce their name. But instead, they got exhausted and they gave up. And ever since then, we've been known as the Coutures. I mean, I don't know about you, but I would like to sound a little fancier and be like Couture. But here we are. They changed who they were when they could have adapted. So, with that thought in mind, we're going to go on a journey. I know you're going to get a lot of information today. And so what I want to do is I want to start by saying one thing that you should take away from my presentation. So I'm going to give you a lot of things. But if you can remember one thing, I'm going to tell you what that one thing is. Also, I'm going to say, what is OnLogic? Who is OnLogic? I know some people have heard of us. A lot of people haven't. So I will make sure to go ahead and go through that. And then we'll go on our beginning of our cultural awareness journey. We are still early on in it, which creates so many opportunities. And oh my gosh, I'm just eating it up. Egbert knows that I could talk about this forever and ever. And also, what did that mean for adapting our leaders? So, that one thing to take away. Start your culture awareness journey early. We're a mid-sized company. We're about 270. So we could have started earlier, but I feel like we're still small enough that we're making so many new things, and this is a great time to go ahead and start this journey. So we do it correct the first time. Or we're early on enough that we could actually make corrections without losing too much. For instance, because we adapted as leaders, we have saved so many valuable team members. We are having respectful conversations in our cultures. Also, we've become more effective and efficient because our communications are much smoother. I mean, think about all of those emails that you get from different cultures and you think that they're angry at you, or you're like, oh my gosh, get to the point. Well, if you understand each other's cultures, those conversations go a lot smoother and there's a lot less questions or feelings. Also, you can save a lot of time and money. Because if you think about it, like all of the process that you create, all of the resources that you create, now we're going to have to go back and redo those. But it's worth it. People are worth it. So, what is OnLogic? Well, you know what? We make it possible with our computers. We create and sell advanced, powerful, small computers, and they're going to thrive where other computers would fail. So if you think about high heat, right? Melting iron in a warehouse, cold temperatures like the Arctic, I kid you not, we're in the Arctic. Also, we help protect our computers against strong vibrations and also dust. So if you think about those chip factories, right? The chip factories with all the cheese that's, they sprinkle on the chips and it's all getting in the air, a lot of computers would fail. But that's where we thrive. So we make it possible. We also make it possible with our customers because we're going to configure all of our computers to what they specifically need. So even our computers can adapt. So now let's talk about who is OnLogic. So we have locations in the United States. So Vermont is where our headquarters is. We also have North Carolina in the United States. We are in Netherlands, we have an office there, and we have offices in Taiwan and Malaysia. I'm sure for anybody who has already started their cultural awareness journey, you can just imagine the differences that we're seeing across all those different offices. So Vermont is about 200 people total. We got about 45 in Netherlands and 25 in the Asian cultures. Okay. Also, we have marketing, operations, HR, finance. We have all of the different departments in the U.S. We have sales in the U.S. too. We have sales in Netherlands. We have another production area in Netherlands, and we also have HR and finance. And then in the Asian cultures, we have engineers and procurement. I let you know that because that plays a part too. We want to look at the cultures. We also want to look at who the individual person is, right? Because what they do for work also changes how we're going to help them and how we're going to adapt to them. We have core values. We stand by them, such as being open. I'm being open with you about our journey. What we learned, what we did well, what we didn't do well, and what we're trying to do to make it better. We are fair. We want to make sure that everyone feels welcome. We're also independent. We're going to define our own destiny. We're going to go ahead and think like an owner. We're going to get stuff done. And we're also innovative, constantly keeping up with things. We want to make sure that we're always ahead of the curve and we're always innovating. So these core values were actually created by the founders. So Lisa is from the United States, and we have Roland, who is from the Netherlands. So they came together, and they put together this company on these values. And they made a commitment and said, I'm not going to make any changes or decisions without making sure that they align with those values. If they don't align with even one of those values, they're not going to do it. That's pretty powerful. And even till this day, that's true. With that, behaviors happen. We expect people to be leaders. We expect every single person to think like an owner. If this is your business, what would you do right now? We also want you to speak up. Everyone has a voice at OnLogic. And our favorite, don't be a jerk. That's the one that always gets people. You're like, wow, that's pretty powerful. Well, that's who we are. We're pretty frank. We actually believe in that so much that if you go on our website, it's out there for our customers to see, right? And I can promise you these values actually go beyond our walls. We expect all of this from our customers, from our partners. We want to make sure that we're fostering a community with everyone where we're not going to be jerks together. Now let's talk about the journey. The journey begins with our Inclusivity team. So we went ahead and built this team knowing that we needed representatives from the different cultures. So we have the team that is made up from different representatives of the different offices. And they go ahead and give the perspective of how things feel and how we could be more diverse in our hiring and how we can make more things more comfortable and making sure that everyone feels the same. The great thing is that they recognize that, yeah, we're experts in how it feels in our culture, and we have an idea, like, what each other is going through. But we also recognize that we're not the experts. We're a team that's going to help deliver the expert message, but we're not the experts. So that's where the Culture Factor group came in. Kirk came by and was introduced to us by Justin. He's our general counsel on the Inclusivity team. And he went ahead and learned about the Hofstede dimensions, the 6 dimensions, while he was over in the EU. And he thought it was so powerful that he wanted to bring it to us. So we had Kirk come in, and he went ahead and trained our leaders and also our human resources. We figured, okay, let's dip a toe. See what this is about. See if this is something that we can adapt to without changing who we are. So these are the different dimensions that we have. So some of you I know that are familiar with this, some aren't. But just quickly, power distance, we learned about how people view hierarchy differently. So, am I equal to my manager? Or do I see them from a different view? Individualism and collectivism. I versus we. Do I put tasks before relationships or relationships before tasks? Motivation towards achievement success. So what's that motivation? What's keeping you going? Is it work? Is it, your family? Also your recognition. Uncertainty avoidance. This one is actually really, really big in our company. I see people nodding. It's all big in yours too. So this one actually has played a huge part. This is like the most fascinating one. But it's uncertainty. How comfortable do people feel? Do they need the details, or can they just run with ambiguity? We also have long-term orientation and short-term, so relationship to time. Are you looking at the really big picture? Or are you looking at right now? Is there one truth or are there many? Then the indulgence and restraint. So the relationship to pleasure. And that's kind of like balancing that formal aspect versus, the casual aspect. You're probably seeing that with me right now. I can be a professional, but I'm also a casual person at heart. So we learned about the country comparison tool, which is on the Culture Factors website. If you haven't done this, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to do it. It's very fascinating. These are actually all of our offices put into this tool, and this is where we go ahead and land on all of these different dimensions. So again, I'm being open with you. This is our company right now. And when we saw this, when Kirk showed us this, we were like, oh my gosh. We thought we were on the same wavelength on a lot of these across our cultures. But you can see there are some really big spikes and really big dips. And that's when we put our culture lenses on. Once we had those lenses on, we started seeing everything differently. We thought we were doing a good job, and we were in some respects, but we also realized, wow, there is so many opportunities here to improve. But then we bring it back to our company culture. So Roland and Lisa built this company on those core values. And we're going to stick to that. We're going to say, okay, hey, does this align with our core values? Oh, I think it does. All of them, right? So we're not going to change who we are. We're just going to adapt. So now when we put them against our core values, we come up with this. Are we giving a safe space for people of all cultures to be open? We thought we were. In reality, we actually weren't. Were we being fair and respecting other cultures? Or were we expecting them to adapt to our culture, and that's it? Independence. Are there opportunities to do things differently? Heck yeah. And then there are improvements. Can we make improvements and solve current challenges and also anticipate future needs? 100%. So my mind went wild with this information. Wild. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this. But I was thinking about like the little things that we can change and the big things that we can change. And oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? I am literally the only learning and development person in this company. And I was like, okay, let's start small. Let's figure out the quick things that we can do. Well, we can train on this. Right now, only our leaders and HR knows. We need to get this out there. We need to make sure that everybody in our company knows. So we made a commitment to train every single person, no matter what role you're in. You're all going to be trained on it because we all interact with each other in some way. We looked at how we collaborate, some great opportunities there. Also, what kind of support are we giving in the different offices? We have our headquarters in Vermont. Oh, I feel lots of support. But what about the smaller offices like 45 people or 25 people? Crucial conversations, performance reviews, emails, one-on-ones, lots of opportunities there. Then we looked at the way we structured our meetings, how we were making decisions, how we were doing training, mentoring, coaching. And then the processes and also the resources. Now, that's a lot. But they make sense, right? There's a lot more things we could do. There's bigger things we could do. But we focused on these first to create that foundation for bigger things. So, myself and participants from all over our offices got together and did the trainer program with Egbert. And he was so kind and answered all of our questions. Well, I still have some more, by the way. But we went ahead and said, we're going to be culture ambassadors. We're going to work together, and we're going to be a team. I'm going to help you understand the US side. You're going to help me understand the Asian side. You're going to help me understand the European side. And we're going to find those opportunities, and we're going to make a difference. We also committed to training, right? This is a sensitive topic. So we decided that with Egbert's help, we would go ahead and have the people in the sites go ahead and train those offices. So you're with your culture, you're at the same speed as your culture, you can go ahead and relate to each other and learn about this topic. And then in level 2, we're expecting you all to get together and put it into action. Also, we had culture compass scores. So how did we relate on the dimensions? As you can see, this are the 13 people that we had chosen. That's a pretty widespread, right? Widespread. Now, without Egbert's help, I was like, hey, you know what? The person that's really high, if they need help, they can go to the person that's really low. Fatal mistake, right? It's actually the people in the middle that we need to create that balance. I can get perspectives from everybody, right? But I'm also going to look for people in the middle for that balance of that dimension. And so that was also powerful learning. Another thing that we're doing is not only just training, the whole company, we're going even more in depth. We're going to do the CEO program with our global management team. That is our speak for the top leaders. So CEO, right? The VPs, general counsel, all of them are going to go through this program. And this program is going to go through, the different, levels of the trainings, the different levels of the dimensions, but at the same time, it's going to be from a strategic standpoint because they are the leaders of our company. People follow them. If I'm a team member and I don't see my VP of HR, taking it so seriously that she's going to go ahead and do something like this and spend a lot of time in this area, then I'm not going to pay attention to it. It's not worth it because it's not worth her time. Why should it be worth mine? We're going to show our company how much we believe in this and how much we are going to foster this. And now those people are going to be able to support their departments, their teams. Also, a wonderful thing is that they're going to get one-on-one coaching sessions. And that is so imperative to the top level management because the way that a VP of engineering is going to use this is going to be wildly different compared to the CEO or the general counsel who's going out into new cultures as we're expanding. I mentioned collaboration. So when we went ahead and trained our leaders, it was incredible because we brought up a topic that they all could relate on. We have managers that have team members from all different offices. So take a director of engineering. They have people that they manage in the US, and they have people that are managed in Asia. We also have different IT that is US and Netherlands. We have leaders that are already challenged with trying to manage different cultures. And when we got them together in a room to discuss this, they started realizing, oh, we can learn from each other. That's all it took was just one moment to get them together and give them space to talk. We're a high performance company. We're go, 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 go. But when we slow down and give space for a topic, the things that come out are absolutely amazing. They shared their experiences. They shared what worked and what didn't. And the most powerful ones were actually the people that talked about failures. Yeah, best practices, that's great. But you know what's going to stick with me? The failure you just shared with me. That's more impactful. So don't be afraid to share your failures too. Our site directors. So we recognize that we have a lot of support in the US, but that's not fair to other people who need that support, that extra support. So we do have site directors in all locations. One of our site directors is for our Asian offices. And his presence has made such a big difference in that culture. Because their functional managers are actually over in the US. And to have a leader on site that cares about who you are, that's going to ask, how are you doing today? Is there anything I can do to support you in? How was your weekend? How's your family? Every single day, he does that with everyone. They have guidance and support from their functional managers in the US. So they still have that, that hierarchy there, but adjusting to the culture that they are, having somebody there just that cares about who they are, because they put relationships first before tasks, that has made a huge difference. And I know for a fact that we have saved some very valuable team members just from him being there. Crucial conversations. So everyone thinks crucial conversations are bad conversations. They're not. They're just conversations with something high at stake or just high emotions. So you could be like really, really excited about something, and that's a crucial conversation. Be aware of who is in front of you. When we're talking about individualism, you can see our Netherlands spiked right up, right? In that individualism. So the way I like to think about this is, how much empathy do you give? When we're talking to people in the Netherlands, like the managers who have team members in the Netherlands, they're going to want to be direct. Just give me the feedback. Performance reviews, right? One-on-ones. Just give me the feedback. I'm good. I want to move on, right? My tasks are more my tasks are before my relationships. I'm okay with that. In the US, we are like, yes, give me the feedback. I want the feedback. Absolutely. By the way, can you just let me down gently, please? Just a side of empathy would be really nice right now. And then what we found was in our Asian cultures, they wanted it to be sandwiched. Empathy before, empathy after. How was your weekend? Hey, did you go on that hike? How was your vacation? And then you talk about the feedback. And then you end it with empathy. How can I support you? What can I do better as a leader for you? And that has made a huge difference to everyone as our leaders have adapted to who's in front of them. I will also say that these dimensions are to help give a foundation. They give you something to work off from. But in the end, know who's in front of you. Because I know somebody in the Netherlands that loves empathy and needs empathy. She's lived there her whole life. But there's other things in her life that had changed. Like how she perceives things. So the dimensions are wonderful and they give us foundation. And most often than not, they're perfect. But also understand who the person is in front of you. We also looked at meetings and how we were being formal or casual in our communications, right? How serious we're being, if we're given time for conversations, opportunities, right? And then decision-making kind of goes hand in hand with our meetings, because when we go ahead and make a decision, we were making decisions and saying, hey, that's our decision. Well, that's not being really open and fair. So let's go ahead and actually get a meeting together and discuss this decision. We want everybody's opinion. So for the people that have high uncertainty avoidance, we were giving them the information ahead of time so they can actually go ahead and read about it. get comfortable with it, and it made them feel more safe going into that meeting to make that decision. They came in, and then we went ahead and did a high overview, because we have people on the other side of the other side that want things that are really quick and just give me the high overview. So there we go. We adapted to them. We also adapted by making sure that we allowed time for decisions in that meeting. But one thing we were missing, giving time for people that wanted to walk away from that meeting and think about it, converse with their manager on one-on-one, converse with their team, converse with the expert on that decision, because their anxiety is really high. They want that information before they make a decision. And also, they don't really feel comfortable speaking up in big groups. That's our Asian culture. We were leaving them out. So with these changes, we actually hear their voice now. Also, trainings, right? All of these things I'm telling you with the meetings and decision-making and everything, those are things that I am now incorporating into my trainings, my mentoring, my coaching. I'm adapting to who's in front of me. And a wonderful thing is that if you pull people's compass reporting ahead of time of that training, it's amazing how impactful that can be. We actually did that when we were doing Taiwan and Malaysia training on level 1 dimensions. We had the site director go ahead and give the training because, again, that's somebody that's familiar with the culture. It's a safe space. And he pulled the compass reporting and tailored the training to them. They told me that was the best training they've ever had. They've never felt more accepted, more open. That's really powerful. And I heard that it was like so many questions and so much talking that it actually went overtime. And usually in our meetings, our big meetings across the different cultures, usually they're quiet because it wasn't a comfortable setting for them. But this one was. Also, make sure that you're looking at, your process, your resources, right? So make sure that you're adapting to what's needed. When I create different resources, I go ahead and have different people from different cultures look at it. We're also having the same thing with processes and having that representative tell us, hey, is this going to help you? Is this going to be like, a long-term solution? Or is this going to, does this need to adapt like a little quicker than that? Also, do you want a whole bunch of information or do you want just, give me the high overview? This is where innovation comes in. And it could be so simple. We actually had a situation where we were putting together a resource on compensation, how to speak to our people about compensation, because we're actually open salaried. Very different conversations across the culture, by the way. And my teammate and I created a resource that helps different cultures speak to our open culture in compensation. And when I was presenting it to Taiwan, they wanted all the information. They wanted examples, tell me what to say, and I provided that for them. Then when I brought it over to the US and Netherlands, they're just like, whoa, this is way too much information, I can't. No, one pager, just one pager. Oh, well, how can I do this? I don't want to create multiple things for one thing, right? That's inefficient. That's not effective. And if you don't update all of them at the same time, then you're giving different information. Oh, wait, that's right. Google Docs actually collapses. That's pretty easy. So I literally collapsed the different sections and said, read more. Now it's a one-pager. And now Taiwan is very happy. It's as easy as that. So kind of wrapping up, this journey is never going to end. That compensation doc, I'm going to have to come back to it. And that's okay because it's worth it. I want to make sure that everyone feels included, respected. Because if we go ahead and help them they're going to be more engaged, they're going to work harder, and we're going to be a much more successful business. But only if we go back and make sure over time, revisiting those, because our journey is never going to end. Cultures change, people change. And we need to remember that on our journey. So, that's a lot of things we adapted, right? Did we change who we are? In fact, we're probably more so. We're more open, we're more fair, we're more independent, we're more innovative. We never changed who we were. We just adapted to the people in the situation. So, we are still the most enthusiastic company. We are still the most thoughtful. We are still patient, optimistic. We're introverts, extroverts. We're quirky. We're quiet. We're loud. But in the end, we're still Couture. Thank you.
Oh, let's give it up again for Jina Couture. Jina, we have a few questions for you. And if you have questions in the house, please raise your hand so that we can identify. We have one question over here and one question over there. Could we please pass the mics to them? And while we're getting the mics ready, we have a question via email. Have you seen early results on what is now provided in your company? That's one. And was it hard to convince your leaders that this was worth their time?
So the wonderful thing is that we have, when we're hiring our leaders, we have a very intensive interview process. And so one of those things that we look for is, are they the ability to adapt? So are they actually the leaders, do they align with our core values, but are they willing to adapt to what is needed? And we actually have a manager assessment that puts you through this whole rigmarole to make sure that you can adapt. Because of that, it wasn't very hard to actually get them to believe that this was really real. And also, our global management team members do talk with the different cultures. So when they saw those graphs, they actually were just like, oh my gosh, that, I see it. So thankfully, we had some great leaders that were absolutely on board with this. The results, the most immediate results were actually team members that wanted to leave the company. There's tens of people that actually wanted to leave the company because they didn't feel heard, respected, valued. And so once we started making these adjustments, we actually ended up saving them. And now they feel supported, and they decide to stay. And also, I'm noticing that people actually are training faster because my communication with them is smoother. So those are the immediate results that we've been seeing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have a question in the house.
Yes. Hi. So, John McGraw from Hyaku Coaching.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And thanks for the presentation. It was great to see the view of how you managed to basically adapt while also not losing yourself in the process. And I wanted to zero in on one of those values. Don't be a jerk. I'm curious. And I'm curious, when that was initially introduced, if you had a different definition in terms of going through this process, if that's kind of changed about how you basically explain it, for example, for onboarding, those kinds of situations, about what exactly that means.
That's a fantastic question. Don't be a jerk has so many more meanings now that we have our cultural lenses on. So originally, don't be a jerk was actually in our communication to one another in the essence of watch your tone, respect other people's decisions, be open to other people's thoughts, and make sure that you're being fair. So it was actually more in the essence of, your traditional understanding of what a jerk is, right? And it seemed so simple. It was like, yeah, just don't be a jerk. Like, easy. But then now going through this journey, you're absolutely right. Now, don't be a jerk means don't write that email, don't like that. Don't just tell them what you need. Ask how they're doing. Ask how that project went yesterday. Is there any more support I can give before you actually go into what you need? Because now they're not being a jerk, because now they understand the culture and they're putting it into action, they're living it. So now, don't be a jerk came up, quite a bit in our office, but now it comes up even more so. I'd be like, that was a jerk email. What are you doing? So there's a lot more things that have come up as far as being a jerk.
Thank you.
you, Jina. We have one more question in the house, but before we take the question in-house, I will read one more question. We have a question, I think, from Lynn. But before we take Lynn's question, we're going to take a question from Marina online. And Marina is asking you, Jina, she said, "There, Jina, what did you take from this project personally? So what did you learn personally from this project?"
Egbert might remember this. I thought I was a we, collectivism. Apparently I'm not. I'm an I'm an individualism. And I argued with Egbert on it. I was like, but I care about people. I care about everybody. So I actually learned a lot about myself. So it was very interesting. But at the same time, I'm very much like an inclusive person. And one of the things I really like to do is make sure to get everybody's opinion and like, hey, let's go together on this bus. And I thought I was being respectful to all the cultures in that regard, because I was thinking, hey, everybody's involved. I want everybody's opinion. Then after learning this, I kind of was embarrassed because no one had the heart to tell me, hey, I want you to drive that bus. Like, just tell me where you're going. And so that was actually pretty eye-opening, because I thought I was living, an inclusive culture this whole time. And I wasn't. And there's a share of a failure.
Thank you. And we have a question from Lynn.
Jina, thank you so much. That was a really insightful presentation. I've learned a lot. Thank you. So I am Lynn Gallagher, pronounced Gallagher in North America, or my family members in the UK would describe it Gallagher.
So you can relate.
So I'm kind of conflicted on which how I should describe it. But my question actually relates to measurement. Mm-hmm. So the first question talked about results, and you did describe retention going up and speed to development or training increase. Well, I'm curious, what other KPIs did you set to measure success, and how did you track those?
Absolutely. So right now, we're still early on in our journey, and part of that is going to really come into play when we do the CEO program with our global management team, because that's going to be more a strategic learning for them in order to build out those KPIs. But as far as what I can give is, we do actually an engagement survey. Engagement surveys are extremely valuable, by the way. If you don't do it, please do it. But our engagement surveys have increased tremendously. We're talking like 70% in some offices to 90%. So just that alone has been absolutely incredible. And trainings, I have a new manager onboarding training, and with other cultures, it would take me about 2.5 hours. And it's actually planned for only an hour and a half to onboard them. And now, because I'm actually adapting and understanding what they need, I'm actually bringing that closer to an hour and a half. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Because of time, we won't take any more questions, but please, I would like everyone to please give Jina another round of applause. Thank you so much, Jina, for sharing. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.